I want to thank each and every one of you who picked up the Gohan Then, Now, and Forever t-shirt or merch line. This has been the most successful merch line I've put out in quite some time. Right now, it's still available. Then, Now, and Forever Beast Mode Classic t-shirt in various colors and sizes. Click the link in the description down below and get yours. And once again, I really appreciate everyone who's got one. They're still up if you haven't gotten one, and if you already got one, get another one for a friend or fellow Dragon Ball fan. And now, let's get to the video. Oh boy, so many of you have sent this article over to me to debunk it. I think y'all just want to see me rant on it, which I get it. I do some funny rants sometimes. Screen Rant is at it once again, speaking of which, with another clickbait bullshit title that is meant to confuse the casual audience, surely not the hardcore fans, but is meant to confuse people. But some of you might have been confused by this, and I'm going to go into it here. The article says Gohan was Dragon Ball's first Super Saiyan, not Goku, right? Now, obviously, right off the hop, you know that's wrong. Right off the hop, you know that's wrong. But is there any merit to it? I'm going to get to that. So it says here by Spencer Connolly, who I think the name's familiar. I think I've debunked his shit before, but it's from Screen Rant, so that shouldn't even surprise you. And like I've said before in a few of these videos, Screen Rant themselves never actually do any QA on these. They don't actually investigate their articles. They don't check if they're false or true or any of that. They just post them, and the guy gets paid. While many fans may be under the impression that Goku was Dragon Ball's first Super Saiyan, he was not. In fact, the title goes to Gohan. Now, I know a lot of you guys are probably thinking, what about Yamoshi and, you know, the Broly or whatever? They're talking about the first one ever seen is what he's talking about here. So that saying Yamoshi or whatever, that's not what we're talking about here. So here's what he's basically saying. He goes, while Goku famously unlocked the transformation of Super Saiyan during his iconic battle with Frieza on planet Namek, he actually wasn't the first Dragon Ball character to be considered Super Saiyan in continuity, as that honor goes to his son Gohan. I know exactly what he's going to say, and unless you are familiar with the Japanese version of Dragon Ball, like really familiar with it, as you know I am, because that's the version that I watch, and that I always recommend that you watch, you're not going to pick up on what he's trying to say. And I'll explain in this video what he's talking about. He goes into the Frieza saga right here. I don't want to read all of this, but they're talking about the whole Frieza saga, and Vegeta talked about, you know, the original Super Saiyan, how strong Frieza was, Krillin was killed. This is all basically, all this paragraph right here is, and I talked about this before, is them buffing out, like adding fat to the article, because it's been pretty much discovered through search engine optimization. There's actually courses on this. You can take classes on how to optimize your search engine discovery, that if you have introductory articles and a certain number of pictures in your blogs, it reads better on Google's algorithm. This is all done so they can be discovered by the algorithm. You know, that's something they do. So it talks about how, you know, Frieza killed the Z Fighter, which is Krillin, in front of Goku. Goku fell at that moment with the spark he needed to unlock legendary power of Super Saiyan. That's all true. It's just a recap of the arc. So he says, Dragon Ball Chapter 204 by Toriyama, Piccolo and Goku are successfully killing Raditz, saving Gohan. So he's going back to the Raditz fight. And he talks about how Nappa and Vegeta are coming to Earth. And then it says, at that point, the book cuts to Vegeta and Nappa talking among themselves with their separate space pods, basically going over Rad's situation, right? And they're talking about the power of a half Saiyan, half human hybrid. Now, this conversation, depending on what dub you're watching, has been altered in the dub. That's why you have to watch the Japanese version or read the manga, because what they're basically saying, and he's right about this. This is the first time that the word Super Saiyan is ever used in the series, which is Nappa basically discovering that, or assuming that if you combine human and Saiyan genes, so if you have a Saiyan and a human breeding, aka in this case Goku and Chi-Chi, and later Bulma and Vegeta, you're gonna get a fighter that has much more potential, which is Gohan. That's all true. And so he's saying that Gohan might be a Super Saiyan. That's true. He's not lying in this article, right? And once again, in Dragon Ball Z episode 35, which is the last episode of the Saiyan saga, where Gohan defeats Vegeta by turning into a great ape, and Vegeta leaves the Earth, right? Krillin spares him. In that episode, the English dub of that episode is called Mercy. Whatever. The Japanese name for that episode, right here I have it highlighted, calls a miracle the Super Saiyan Son Gohan. So yes, Gohan is referred to as a Super Saiyan, but that's only a title, not a transformation, with the idea being that Nappa thought that they could breed Super Saiyans by breeding with women, right? When Nappa brings that up, Vegeta says, bad idea. Nappa's like, why? Vegeta goes, because would you really want a bunch of strong fighters running around to overthrow us? So Vegeta's idea was, if we have a bunch of kids with these human women, so they were going to smash a bunch of human women, right? Probably against their will, I hate to say it. If they're going to have a bunch of kids with these human women, you're going to have a bunch of Gohans running around who could be stronger than Vegeta and Nappa at the time. All of that to me makes sense. However, the issue with this article is that he's clickbaiting. This is pure clickbait, because even though Gohan was referred to as the first super, as a Super Saiyan from Nappa, he wasn't the first Super Saiyan. See right here, he says technically claimed the title of Dragon Ball's first Super Saiyan as Goku, or over Goku. So he's saying that on a technicality, Gohan was called a Super Saiyan first. But that doesn't work. You want to know why? Because in the Japanese dub, the Japanese version of the Tree of Might movie, Turles is called a god of destruction. Cell is called a god of destruction when he transforms in Dragon Ball Z and gets his perfect form. So does that mean that Cell and Turles are god of destruction like Beerus? No, it's just a word that was used, a phrase that was used to show grandiose, for marketing purposes, to show power. So Gohan being called a Super Saiyan is not that he's got the transformation of a Super Saiyan or the properties of what would become a Super Saiyan. It's just a word that was used to say that he's a super fighter. Because if you remember, that Saiyan Saga episode, even when it came out in Japan, was way before Goku had become a Super Saiyan on Namek, even in the manga. So what he's basically trying to do is create a technicality and use this article as clickbait to get everybody to say, no, that's not true, which you guys are right, it's not true. But he's basically saying, did you know that Gohan was called a Super Saiyan and that hybrid Saiyans were called Super Saiyan? And he's right, they were, but they're not Super Saiyan in definition of what a Super Saiyan would become. It's all about context. Context is king, folks. And he's using this false context to get clicks so that people say, well, he's technically right. So he's not lying necessarily, but he's using shady tactics. That's what's going on here. The first Super Saiyan that was ever shown was Goku. That's the first real Super Saiyan we ever saw in the series. We ever saw. I'm not talking about Yamoshi or anybody else. First one we saw, like actually fully transform in front of us as far as the main characters go, was Goku. Gohan may have been speculated to be a Super Saiyan, but ultimately Goku got to the form first. Gohan got it in the Cell Saga episodes later. That's your explanation. There's not much to rant about here. I can't even sit here and say the guy's full of shit, because he is full of shit and that he's baiting you, but there's your explanation. There you go. Watch Dragon Ball in Japanese and you'll get this context, but you'll know that's not really a Super Saiyan. Take care. Talk to you next time.